They called me a disgrace to the uniform at my own promotion ceremony. In front of 200 Marines. Colonel Harwick didn't whisper it. He wanted everyone to hear. I stood there, silent. Let him finish. Because I knew something he didn't. The ceremony was at Camp Pendleton. Officers' Club. May afternoon with the kind of California sun that makes dress blues feel like a punishment. Standard promotion ceremony. 37 officers moving up. Families in folding chairs arranged in perfect rows. The kind of event where protocol matters more than breathing, where every salute is measured, every word scripted. I was up for Major. 10 years of service. 2 combat deployments, 1 in Helmand Province, 1 in northern Syria. A record so clean it practically glowed. Fitness reports that Harwick himself had signed 3 months prior with comments like exemplary and unlimited potential. But when my name was called, when I stepped forward in front of everyone, my parents in the 3rd row, my younger sister recording on her phone, fellow officers I'd served with standing at attention, Colonel Harwick held the oak leaves back. Just held them, in his hand, staring at me. "Captain Reeves," he said, and his voice carried. He wanted it to. Made sure the microphone caught every syllable. "I've been reviewing your file more carefully these past few days." The room shifted. You could feel it. That collective intake of breath when people know something's wrong, but don't know what yet. His smile was thin, calculated. The kind of expression that looks polite in photographs but feels like a knife up close. "You've been granted this promotion through administrative channels." He paused. Let that word hang there. Administrative. Like it was something dirty. "But between you and me," he glanced at the crowd, made eye contact with a few senior officers in the front row. "And everyone here, frankly, I'm not entirely convinced you've earned the respect that comes with this rank." Someone coughed. A baby cried in the back. My mother's hand found my father's. I saw it in my peripheral vision. "You represent a new kind of officer," Harwick continued. He was enjoying this. I could see it in the way he shifted his weight, the way his shoulders squared. New policies. Softer standards. The kind of promotion that happens because someone checked a box somewhere, filled out the right paperwork, knew the right people. He looked at the oak leaves in his hand like they were contaminated. Participation trophies in uniform, if we're being honest. The room was silent now. Completely silent. The kind of quiet that feels like pressure in your ears. "So yes, Captain, you'll get your oak leaves. The paperwork says you will. I can't stop that." He set them on the table beside him instead of pinning them to my chest. "Just place them there. Like trash. But don't mistake paperwork for honor. Don't mistake administrative approval for the respect of the men and women you'll be leading. That has to be earned. And I'm not sure you understand the difference." I didn't correct him. I didn't explain that those administrative channels were classified approval chains that went through JSOC and DoD officials he'd never meet. That the paperwork he dismissed was signed by people who knew exactly what I'd been doing for the last 18 months. I picked up the oak leaves, held them in my palm. They were warm from sitting under the stage lights. Then I walked back to my seat while 200 people pretended not to stare. I felt every eye. Heard whispers starting already. Saw the way some officers looked away when I passed, embarrassed for me, maybe embarrassed for themselves for witnessing it. My hands didn't shake. I made sure of that. My mother was crying quietly in the 3rd row. My sister had stopped recording. I sat down, placed the oak leaves in my lap, and waited for the ceremony to end. What Colonel Harwick didn't know, what he couldn't have known because it was classified at levels that don't appear on standard clearance checks, was where I'd actually been for the last 18 months. He thought I'd been at a desk, pushing papers at Camp Lejeune, maybe doing some liaison work, the kind of safe rear echelon assignment that officers get when they're being groomed for promotion through softer standards. But I hadn't seen Camp Lejeune in over a year. I'd been running joint operations with MARSOC and CIA ground branch teams in the Levant, not coordinating from a headquarters, not analyzing from a tactical operations center. I was on the ground, in denied territory, places where if something went wrong, the official position would be that I was never there. 3 successful extractions of high-value intelligence assets from hostile urban environments. 2 direct action missions that resulted in the capture of targets who'd been on priority lists for 3 years. 0 casualties under my command. Not one. Not in 18 months of operations where the margin for error was measured in seconds. The administrative channels Harwick mocked so publicly? Those were executive-level approvals that bypassed normal promotion timelines because I'd been hand-selected for a multinational task force. The kind that doesn't have a name you can Google. The kind where your rank matters because you're sitting across from British SAS and French Special Forces officers who won't take orders from a captain, regardless of what you've done. My promotion wasn't politics. It was operational necessity. But I couldn't say that. Not there. Not to him. Not to anyone who wasn't read into programs that officially didn't exist. So I let them fill in the blanks. And Harwick filled them enthusiastically. For the next 2 weeks, he told anyone who'd listen that my promotion was a political statement. That I was a diversity checkbox in dress blues. That I'd probably never seen real combat, never made a decision that mattered, never done anything that would qualify as actual leadership. He had a whole narrative, built it carefully, told it at the officers' club bar, mentioned it during staff meetings, made jokes about participation trophy majors that everyone understood were about me. Some officers laughed. Some stayed quiet. A few looked uncomfortable, but said nothing. I let him talk, because I had work to do. Mission planning, intelligence briefings, coordination meetings with partner forces who actually knew what I'd done, who'd seen me operate, who knew exactly what my record looked like when you included the parts that weren't in official files. My team knew. The people I'd served with in theater knew. The men and women whose lives depended on my decisions, they knew. And that was enough. I didn't need Harwick's respect. I didn't need his approval. I didn't need him to understand that the missions I'd run had potentially prevented a regional conflict, that the intelligence we'd secured had fed into operations across 3 theaters, that people were alive because of decisions I'd made in situations he couldn't imagine. I just needed to do my job. So when I saw him in the corridors, I nodded. Professional, courteous, didn't argue, didn't defend myself, didn't try to explain what he wasn't cleared to know. I let his assumptions grow, let his narrative spread, let him think he was right, because silence does something to people. It makes them confident, makes them certain, makes them forget that there might be things they don't know. And sometimes that's exactly what you want. 3 weeks and 4 days after my promotion ceremony, there was another event. Division level this time. Change of command. Bigger venue. More senior officers. The kind of ceremony where generals show up and photographers from the Marine Corps Times take pictures for official records. Harwick was there. Front row. Dress blues with ribbons I'd seen before. The standard decorations of a career officer who'd done his time, but never his tours in the places that don't make it onto service records. He was up for a new assignment, some advisory position at Quantico. Prestigious. Safe. The kind of posting where you teach doctrine to lieutenant colonels and write policy papers that sound important in briefings. He looked pleased with himself. Talked with other field-grade officers before the ceremony started. I saw him gesture in my direction once, saw another officer glance at me, and then away. The story was still spreading. I sat in the back. Didn't need to be there, really, but I'd been invited. Thought it would be professional to attend. Then the Commandant of the Marine Corps walked onto the stage. 4 stars on each collar. The highest-ranking Marine on the planet. The man who answers directly to the Secretary of Defense and the President. He wasn't on the program. Wasn't supposed to be there. His presence changed everything. You could feel it physically. The way everyone sat straighter. The way conversations stopped mid-sentence. The way the room's center of gravity shifted toward the stage. Harwick adjusted his cover, then adjusted it again. The Commandant spoke briefly about the nature of service, about sacrifice, about the Marines who operate in silence, who do the work no one sees, who carry out missions that never make the news, because success means nobody ever knows there was a problem. His voice was calm, measured, the kind of authority that doesn't need volume. Then he said my name, Lieutenant Colonel Reeves, front and center. Lieutenant Colonel. Not Major. Lieutenant Colonel. I heard Harwick inhale. Sharp. Sudden. Like he'd been punched. I stood. Walked forward through the silence. Every step measured. Professional. My ribbons caught the light, including ones that hadn't been there 3 weeks ago. New ones. The kind you don't get for attending staff meetings. The Commandant didn't smile. He didn't need to. He held the silver oak leaf, the rank insignia for Lieutenant Colonel, and pinned it to my collar himself. His hands were steady, precise. Your work in theater has been exceptional, Colonel, he said quietly, but the microphone caught it. The whole room heard it. The task force you led saved American lives. Allied lives. Your operations secured intelligence that prevented what we assess would have been a significant regional conflict. Multiple partner nations have specifically requested your continued involvement in future operations. He paused. Let that information settle over the room like a weight. That's not paperwork, he continued, his voice carrying now, projecting to every corner of the venue. That's not administrative channels. That's not checking boxes. He looked at me directly. That's leadership under the most demanding circumstances our Corps can offer. He shook my hand, held it. His grip was firm. Then he looked past me, directly at Harwick. The Commandant's expression didn't change. Didn't need to. And for those wondering if standards have dropped, he said, each word deliberate, I'd invite them to spend 18 months operating in active hostile zones with a zero-casualty record and a 100% mission success rate. If they survive it, if they make the decisions that Colonel Reeves made, if they earn the respect of Special Operations Forces from 4 allied nations. He paused. Then we'll have a conversation about what earning it looks like. The silence was absolute. Total. The kind of quiet where you can hear your own heartbeat. Harwick's face went gray, then red, then gray again. He didn't move, didn't clap when everyone else stood. Just sat there, frozen, while 200 people witnessed his certainty collapse. After the ceremony, I stayed for the reception. Standard protocol. Handshakes. Congratulations from officers I'd never met who suddenly wanted to know about my interesting career path. Questions I couldn't fully answer, redirected politely to topics I could discuss. My parents were there. They'd made the drive from San Diego. My mother hugged me carefully, mindful of my uniform, tears in her eyes but smiling. My father shook my hand, then pulled me into an embrace anyway. We didn't know, he said quietly. We had no idea what you were actually doing. I know, I told him. That was the point. My sister recorded everything this time. Made sure to get clear footage of the new rank insignia, of the Commandant's speech, of the moment that rewrote what had happened 3 weeks earlier. I saw Harwick across the room. He was standing alone near the refreshment table. Other officers gave him space. Not obviously, not dramatically, just space. The kind of distance that opens up around someone when the social calculus changes, when people recalculate who's worth standing next to. He was holding a glass of water. Hadn't touched it, just held it like he needed something to do with his hands. I could have stayed on the other side of the room, could have avoided him completely. Let the moment speak for itself. But I had to walk past him to reach the exit. My parents were waiting. We had dinner plans. Life continuing forward. So I walked toward him. Not toward him, really. Toward the door. But the path took me past where he stood. He saw me coming. I watched his expression cycle through options. Anger. Embarrassment. Something that might have been an attempt at explanation forming on his lips. He opened his mouth. I didn't slow down. Didn't stop. Didn't make eye contact. Just walked past him like he was part of the furniture. Behind me, I heard him start to say something. My name, maybe. Colonel, possibly. The beginning of a sentence that went nowhere. I kept walking, because there was nothing left to say. No explanation required. No acceptance of apology needed. No conversation that would change what had happened or what he'd revealed about himself. He'd made his assumptions, built his narrative, spoken with certainty about things he didn't understand, about a record he hadn't actually read, about work he wasn't cleared to know existed. And then reality had walked onto a stage wearing 4 stars and corrected him in front of everyone who'd heard his story. I didn't need to add anything to that. Outside, the California sun was setting, orange and pink over the Pacific. My parents walked on either side of me toward the parking lot. My sister was already posting photos with captions I'd have to approve later, making sure nothing classified showed in the backgrounds. My phone buzzed. Text messages from people I'd served with overseas. People who'd been in the room. People who'd heard. One message just said, "Silence is the rank." I smiled, put my phone away. My mother asked what I wanted for dinner. My father suggested the Italian place near their house. My sister wanted barbecue. Normal family conversation. Normal decisions. The kind of ordinary moment that feels extraordinary after 18 months of operations where every choice carried weight. We got in the car, drove toward San Diego, left Camp Pendleton behind. I never saw Harwick again. Heard later he took early retirement. Heard the Quantico position went to someone else. Heard a lot of things through the informal network that exists in the Corps. The way information travels when people want you to know something without officially telling you. I didn't ask for details. Didn't need them. I didn't correct them. I didn't explain. They found out on their own. Silence is the rank. Subscribe if you understand.
If you enjoyed the story, Subscribe now for stories where silence outranks noise, and the truth always shows up eventually.